Hi guys, welcome to Good Karma Coffee Brew Bar. I just wanted to show you today how to do a pour over on a budget. So let me show you what I've got down here first to get started. Now, I've got a V60 here set up. I don't know if you remember in the last post I talked a bit about this. This is a beautiful server and a plastic V60, just as good as all the rest, or sometimes better in some cases. Don't necessarily need the server. I'm going to use one of my gorgeous Good Karma mugs. So that just takes care of just having the plastic V60. And wait a second, I actually don't need to have a scale either. So I'm down to a plastic V60 and my mug. So I'm going to get some coffee ground up. Actually, I ground some up here. Usually you use what's called a burr grinder to grind it. I have electric burr grinder. I also have a hand burr grinder. But hey, you don't necessarily have to get a burr grinder. Just contact your local roaster and ask them to grind up for V60. So this is going pretty good so far. If I'm going to pour over, all I need to really get so far is the V60. Wait a second. If you remember, we talk about pour overs, you talk about these specialty kettles like my fancy little fellow here. Right? I probably went on and on about that. You can see YouTube videos about my kettle. Just recently, I got this gorgeous little kettle from Hario. Very reasonably priced. Now, what's in there now is simply just hot water that I want to heat up the kettle with. So this changes the game, for sure. First of all, let me get started with this, and I'm going to heat up. Instead of pouring water in the sink, I'm going to heat up my my V60. So what I'm doing is I'm going to wet the filter, and it sort of does two things. It heats up the filter, wets the filter, heats up the V60, and it also heats up my mug a little bit. So give me a sec, I'm going to toss this water out. And I'm going to toss the water out of here in my mug. Way to go. Okay. But you're saying, what am I going to do? What about measuring, Steve? You just said I don't need a scale. Well, if you remember, if you had looked at one of my other videos, YouTube videos, I talked all about scoop and scale, and basically about measuring. In fact, instead of using grams, you can use tablespoons. Basically what it came down to is 1 tablespoon equals about 5 grams. And the ratio I'm using today is 350 grams or 350 mils. See that? How sweet is that? That works out to be perfectly 350 mils. That works out to 21 grams with the ratio that with the ratio that I'm using. Now 21 grams, I'm going to call it 20 grams, which works out really nice because 20 grams is basically 4 scoops. If I got 5 grams per scoop. What I mean by scoops, sorry, not 4 scoops, 4 tablespoons. So I don't know if can you see it? Yeah, you can see this here. So I'm going to level off 1, and then I'm going to level off, let me get enough of this, level off 2, and almost done. I want to make sure it's nice and low. Level 3, and finally, let me get my 4th one. I gave a little extra coffee to make sure I'd have enough here. Perfect, gotcha. Level off 4. Okay, now, didn't have to use my fancy pour over kettle. I got this lovely little one here. Didn't have to use my scale because I used a tablespoon. Didn't have to use the server. I can use a mug. All I really need to do to get started is have a little pour over kettle here and the V60. Pretty cool, huh? Now I'm going to flatten that out and put a little hole in the middle. This is really what you should do. By the way, if you ever want to see any more V60 technique, just check out my YouTube video. I went through a whole pile of different pour overs and I compared them all. Now, if I want to get my water, I'm going to have to fill this one up. I'm going to fill this one up to 350. Little different way of doing it for sure. And That's pretty good. So I usually go by a scale with a timer on it, but I got a timer over here on my computer because obviously I'm using my phone for a timer. So I'm gonna set this timer right here, and around 20 seconds, actually before I do it, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm going to pour it in and stop around 20 seconds. And then what's called a bloom is going to occur. That's when the carbon dioxide leaves the coffee. For fresh coffee, that always happens. Sort of see a few bubbles. Then after about 40 seconds, I'm going to pour again about halfway down. I'm sort of getting used to this little kettle. I'm just got it recently. And I'm going to pour again. So a total of 3 pours. Let me start this. Off we go. I'm quite impressed with this. After using some of the best cuts, look at this. Look how nice that pours. I got one eye over on my timer and one eye on this. So I'm going to go up to 15, 16. I bet I can walk, chew gum at the same time. 20. There you go. I'm going to stop. You see that there? Yeah. Those are the bubbles. I'm going to give it a little shimmy too. I want the water and the coffee to mix as quick as possible. That's the carbon dioxide going off. I'm looking at my timer there. I'm going to wait till it hit around 40. 9:40. I was just looking at some recipes today on Instagram. It's amazing. No matter who you talk to, everyone has a recipe. By the way, not only is this amazing pour, just a reminder, if you're going to be pouring like this, try not to go to the edges, because that means the water is just going to rush down, right? It doesn't matter if you go concentric circles. I mean, it's so many people have so many different ways of doing it. Now, here I'm talking again. I want to see, I'm going to go just down to 100 left, I think. I don't know if I mentioned it, but 100 mils and 100 grams of water is basically the same thing. You got to be careful. Okay, here we go. I'm going to stop here. Okay, give it a little swirl. I'm going to wait anywhere 15 to 20 seconds. Basically, I've been doing this so much, I sort of get a sense. You want the water to the water to soak down through the grounds. You don't want it to be hanging up too high, the water too high above the grounds, because it puts too much pressure on the coffee grounds. And I just got a little bit left to go. This is all got to do, I know I shouldn't, I always like to rinse off the sides. This all has to do with just practice and enjoyment, because there's no perfect way to do it. Basically, whatever you do and you enjoy it, just try to repeat it. This kettle's amazing, by the way. I am thoroughly impressed. And we're almost done here. I'm just checking my time. And it's sort of different because I'm used to looking at a scale, but all I had to do now was, when I'm done, I'm done. How cool is that? Beautiful little spout, huh? Beautiful. So the only thing left to do now, listen carefully, I don't know if you can hear it. It's pouring down nicely, is to wait probably, I'm looking at the time, I'm looking at this, about halfway down through, give it a little spin so you get all the, all what's called the slurry off the sides. This is the slurry inside. You're always going to have some fines, little particles that are stuck to the filter. But my target now is to end up with a flat bed. And my time, I love to have between 3 and 3:30. But that all depends on how long you wait between pours. In fact, I think I only did about 2 or 3 pours. Right? So you see here, I got 3:15, between 3 and 3:30, and boom, look at that. Exactly what I want to see, a flat bed, which means I did as evenly as I could. Now, like I mentioned, you have these fines, you're always going to get those. So that's basically using how to do a pour over on a budget. Just to recap, didn't need to use my fancy kettle. I got this lovely little Hario pour over kettle. Didn't bother with my scale. Just had to use a tablespoon, hopefully handy. Didn't need to use a fancy server. No, I just happened to use my mug. Make sure your mug, by the way, is big enough to hold 350 mils. Didn't need to use my burr grinder, a burr grinder. If you want, just a matter of getting it ground to your specifications. So you can get away with that, right? So basically all you would need to get started is a little kettle like this, a little plastic V60 and some filters. How cool is that? By the way, if anyone has any questions or needs any help, I'm more than happy to help out. I got a whole bunch of other videos on YouTube, how-to videos with pour-overs and all sorts of things. So that's it for now, and I'll talk to you later. Cheers.